late 1990s was a great time to be a car enthusiast. Pistonheads launched in 1998, which is exactly why we're here. And the year after that, Porsche launched what became the go-to track-focused road car in the GT3. Now, they've all been brilliant. We could have chosen anything really from 996 to 992 to show off the 911 as a kind of street and circuit superstar, but this is PH25. We are dealing with the best of the best here, the greatest of the greats, and that meant choosing just one of them. There's one 911 GT3 that, if you value driving exhilaration above anything else, stands head, shoulders and wide arches above the rest of them. And you will probably know it by just 5 very simple numbers. 997 4.0. Now, if you will excuse a really, really horrible car journalist phrase, then the 997 is really now looking like the sweet spot of the sweet spot of the 911 range, because it's old enough now to have some lovely old car traits, but it's new enough still to have some really nice new car traits. I think that's why people are really starting to appreciate it. And from that means that GT3 RS 4 litre is kind of peak 911 really, isn't it? You've got old 911 bits, you've got new 911 bits. Like, yeah, this is why we put it in the vote, and this is why you voted it just as high as you did. Back in 2011, there weren't very many made. There's a little plaque down here that says this is number 545 of 600. They were pretty expensive and they cost a heck of a lot more now, and I dare say that probably a 992 Carrera S is just as fast. But if you value feel and engagement and immersion and just being a part of the 911 experience, then this is the ultimate. Now, any great 911 has to have itself a great flat six, and the GT3 RS 4 litre undoubtedly scores very, very highly in that regard. And actually the engine neatly encapsulates this kind of modern yet old school feel of the entire car, because it's the final road going Metzger engine, so it's got all this lovely traditional unrepeatable appeal. It just makes this fascinating array of noises. It kind of grumbles and grinds, and then it screams and it howls as well. There's no engine that creates this kind of experience, yet it's got modern power. Because it went up to 4 litres, you know, it got the crank and the block from the RSR race car, it got some intake bits, I think, from the GT3R hybrid, and there's a titanium exhaust. You've got 500 horsepower. That's only 10 less than a new GT3, and this is 12 years old now. And so it just means proper GT3 performance. Porsche claimed less than 4 seconds to 62 and more than 190 miles an hour, and oh, it feels good for that. Even with some long Porsche manual gears, but we're going to gloss over that today. I've been lucky enough recently to drive this car's kind of indirect predecessor, the 3.8 RS, and that's a spectacular 911, and this is even more awesome. The engine modifications are key to that. You know, you've got a tiny bit less weight in the car and a bit more torque, so it just feels more muscular more of the time, and then when you can get those revs, that extra 50 horsepower, it's just so exciting, so exciting. But crucially as well, this car got some bits from the GT2 RS, so it's got a rose jointed rear end. I think it's got some helper springs as well. It means the car's even firmer, really firm actually, but just stops short of being too harsh, and it means you're even more a part of the experience. Whether you're on circuit, whether you're on a B road, you are totally at one with this 911. You are completely in tune with it and engaged and absorbed by this fantastic driving car. And yeah, that's what we're all after, isn't it? From a track-focused road car, you want to be part of it. You don't want to be feeling like a passenger. You want to be in control of a spectacular car, and yeah, this is absolutely doing that. as well as being the last Metzger engined GT3, this was the final manual GT3 RS. Like, that's huge. I know GT3 RS are about lap times, and I know that putting PDK in after this made sense, and the PDK is brilliant, but my goodness, this is such a satisfying gearbox transmission to use and interact with. I mean, it takes some effort, don't get me wrong. When it's cold, it's really hard work, and you'll try and get some downshifts, you'll get them right, and others, well, that was a good one, but others you'll get really wrong, and there'll be a big flare of revs and you'll miss it and you'll feel really stupid. But my God, when you get it right, this is one of the best manuals out there, and again, just contributes to that experience of being part of it and involved and vital to this car being great. Even having only spent a few hours with this car and loved every second, you just know that this is going to get better and better and better. The longer you have it, the more you learn about it, the more you get familiar with it, and you get better driving it as well. Like all the very best cars, it's going to take a while to really appreciate what it can do and just how thrilling it can be. I just want to take it everywhere, like the very finest road-going track cars that there are. I want to take it to every single road that I can, to every single circuit that I can, just to feel everything as much as possible. I'm going to say it, people, and you did vote it pretty high, so hopefully this isn't too contentious. I think this might be the best 911 ever made. But we weren't after the best 911 ever made, were we? Or indeed since 1998. We were after best track car. This is awesome, but that's awesomer. What else is it gonna be, eh? Of course, your best track car, as voted for by PH readers since 1998, is the Caterham Seven. But, of course, this is not just any old Caterham Seven. This is PH25 we're talking about here, people. We've got a GT3 RS 4 litre along. We couldn't have just any old Caterham. We've got the mad, bad, brilliant 620R. Now, the track car scene has absolutely exploded since 1998. There are all sorts of circuit-focused things that you can buy. But still to this day, there is nothing to match a supercharged Caterham with a sequential gearbox for just sheer, unadulterated joy on a track. Honestly, if you really want to appreciate how good a car can be on a racetrack and how much fun you can have, this is the car that you need still after all this time. And I think what makes the Seven such a joy still after all these years is that it's just completely amenable and malleable, my God, to however you want to drive. This is still a ludicrously fast track car. You know, you can buy those cars with proper downforce, but by combining so little weight, honestly this weighs as much as a sock, with so much power, it's something like 310 horsepower from the supercharged 2 litre. It's crazy quick still. It's an old design, but yeah. Come on! It's still rapid and it's still super precise. You can see the front wheels the whole time, so you can clip every apex. The brakes are fantastic, even though they look like saucers. There's tons of grip, even though we're on the more road-focused tyre here. Yeah, you can pump in lap times with a 620R. Make no mistake. I'm so glad it was the 620R we put forward for the vote as well, because woo, once you add a sequential and a supercharger to a Caterham, my God, you really elevate the experience. My God.
it's just so intense and so raw and so visceral. And you're concentrating all the time, but my God, you're rewarded as well. It's just overflowing with feel and excitement. It's just, there is not a purer, more exhilarating driving experience than this on a track. Trust me. Now the 620 has actually been, try and concentrate for a second, the 620 has actually been part of the Caterham range for a decade now. Oh, I love sequential so much. And it came about through the most ludicrous bit of product planning in classic Caterham fashion. This car replaced the R500, which already had 260 horsepower. You could have a sequential, it'd do 60 in 3 seconds. It was nuts. So obviously this car had to be supercharged. And you know what? I'm not even sure we've got to the best bit yet. The best bit of Pistonhead's best track car since 1998. It's not the sequential, it's the fact that it's so small and it's so light. It makes even tracks like Anglesey feel like Grand Prix circuits. It gives you so much space, but crucially as well, it means you don't cook brakes in 2 laps. It means you don't use £1 million of fuel and £1 million of tyres every single track day like some heavier cars do. You can keep lapping for hour after hour, keeping up with more expensive supercars because it's so light, because it's so small, and because it's got a grenade under the bonnet. And that's going to become vital, isn't it? As we look to a more sustainable future for fast cars, so maybe having a few more track cars that are light and simple and silly and no frills, maybe that's the way to go, you know, using less fuel, using less tyres, and still just having an absolute blast. Honestly, I don't want any more weight, I don't want any more power, I just want more of this all day long. In 2023, we're celebrating 25 years of Pistonheads. We're also celebrating 50 years of Caterham, and the Seven has been a mainstay for that whole half century. And as we celebrate the past in this anniversary year, perhaps there's actually something to be learned from it for the future. You know, perhaps the track car of tomorrow actually looks quite a lot like the track car of the past 50 years. There is not more fun you can have than this.